Well, hello again, Tamalyn.
Hello.
So, in this interview, we will be talking about your journey through South America. We shared about Brazil, and now I want to talk about the when you went to Argentina. And I know that trip was really full of incredible experiences, and you also met a lot of musicians and upcoming dancers. And I want you to share more about that experience and I know you have so much to share. So I think there's going to be two parts. So we'll start with part one.
Yes. Okay. Sure. Okay. When I left Brazil, my visa was running out, and also the Brazilian money wasn't worth anything, so I had to leave. I went to Argentina because I heard that there were places where I could dance that were open 6 nights a week. I thought, well, I can, continue traveling or buy a ticket home or whatever I need to do if I go to Argentina. So I got on the bus and I went. It took a few days to get down to Argentina and then took this hydrofoil from Uruguay across the Rio Plata, I think, I don't remember the name, across a river, anyway, to Buenos Aires. And I found out when I got there that all the banks were closed. There was no currency exchange because the they were going to change the name of the currency and the value of the currency. So nobody knew how much an American dollar would be worth. A nice old couple that had a little cheap hotel, they let me stay and they said, when the banks open, we'll tell you how much you owe. And they took me to a restaurant. They said, you can eat here. When the banks open, they'll tell you how much you owe. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm taking my chances here, but that had no choice. And so they were really nice. It was like super cheap. And then I stayed with a family for a few days in town and deeper into the city. And they told me about a restaurant club called Shark that was very famous. It was open 6 nights a week. And they had live musicians, they had dancers, they had singers, and a very famous dancer named Fairuz was working there. And I thought, well, I'll go there and audition. So I went there and I got the job. And so then there were four of us dancing. The most well known was Fairuz. And she was always on television. And later she became the president. And later was a different president named Menem. And he was Arabic and she was his favorite dancer. So she was really all over the magazines and everything. And she was beautiful. So she used to do this drum solo with her stomach. It was just, I've never seen anything like it before or after. It was a, like her stomach had so much control that almost the whole drum solo would be stomach movements. And she did candelabra with the finger cymbal. She did the shamadan. Um, she had gotten a scholarship to go to Egypt in the very early 80s and study. And she, it wasn't about taking classes, it was more going there and observing and learning because it wasn't like there was dance schools or anything. So she did shamadan, she did finger cymbals, a lot of things they had never seen in Argentina before. And then I come along with my sword, so American, um, doing the czar and my drum solo, but people liked it. And so that was the next thing. Ever since then, actually, because I did the czar so much, the Euros in Argentina, it became a thing in Argentina with subsequent generations. And they have usually long, thick hair, and they would be like whipping their heads around way better than I ever did. It was amazing. So anyway, going back to the restaurant Shark, it was open till 5 in the morning. Well, Yeah, about 5 in the morning. That's what time we would eat dinner. We had to stay the whole time and just be there for when they'd say, okay, it's your turn to dance. I will only dance once a night, each of us, but we had to be there. And yeah, and then of course you'd get home, you'd sleep until 2 in the afternoon, and then get up and do it all over again. The musicians, there was one named Mario Kirlis. He was about 29. I was about 26. So, yeah, 26. Um, he had his band and he played the keyboard and he could play the qanun and he played a lot of instruments, but the main thing was the keyboard. And because of him, when you hear the Argentinian belly dance music, the sound is always that type of a keyboard sound that really replicates all the other instruments because they had musicians, but they didn't always have the whole array of instruments. Sometimes musicians would come from Syria or Egypt. They'd stay for a while and then they were gone. And so he had to have all the instruments in his keyboard. And there were two singers. One was named Yusuf Hamid. He was from Syria. There was Arturo, and I can't really pronounce his last name, but I will spell it um, in the notes. He was this amazing, amazing Armenian singer, and he sounded like Demis Rousseau. He had this booming, amazing voice. So he would sing. Yusuf would sing. There were four of us belly dancing, mainly the star, Fairuz, and I was happy to be among the other three. The currency, when the banks did open up, they called change from pesos to australes. Australes were on par with the dollar. So what the arrangement I made with Shark paid me quite well. And I was just going around having clothes made, buying boots, spending my money. And then I said, oh, after 3 months, I'm like, I have enough money to travel for a few months. Let me go travel. And so I went to northern Argentina, Bolivia, Peru, back to Brazil, Paraguay, and then back to Buenos Aires. And when I came back to Buenos Aires, I actually didn't want well, m most of the good musicians, like Mario wasn't at Shark, Arturo wasn't at Shark. I was like, let me let me make a change. So Arturo, he was singing at a little club called Erevan. Erevan is the capital of Armenia. It used to be an Armenian club, but it was bought by Romany people, by the head of a Romany clan. And his name was Roberto Papadopoulos. It became a Romany club. So I was dancing to Arturo's band, which was not exactly a belly dance band, but I loved his singing so much that I was like, I want to be wherever he is. So, yeah, and I was around a lot of Romani people, um, and it is a culture that I'm fairly familiar with. And so I really enjoyed it. And, being one on one with a lot of the women as well, learning about how they made their clothes, everything it was an incredible experience. And on my day off, I would go to Roberto's house and spend time with his daughter, Patricia, and teach her dance. And they would show me how, about their clothes, like the skirts. We think of Romani skirts as being these layers of ruffles, but the way they made them, they got 10 meters of fabric and gathered it on a waistband. And they didn't dance with skirts. They actually told me they didn't even know their dances because they've been in Argentina so long. Um, and that's why they, you know, Patricia enjoyed picking up belly dancing from me. And then the tops were tight, low cut, sometimes a little bit of skin showed here, sometimes it didn't, but it was mostly tight and low cut. And they said that there were other groups across town that wore loose tops. And they were kind of like, you know, they liked their tops better, which they looked really good. Anyway, it was a great experience. Um, and then on the night off, Arturo, I would go with him and his entourage. We would go to the Greek clubs, and the Greek clubs were where the sailors would hang out. I couldn't just go to a Greek club on my own. They were the sailors would hang out and they would break plates and they'd dance, and there were a lot of prostitutes, and the prostitutes all knew the dances, and it was so wild. And then everybody knew Arturo, and so they'd get him up to sing. And it was really a beautiful experience. At the same time, there was a restaurant called Horizonte, and there was a woman named Mirta who danced there. Tall, very beautiful woman. And she was also very well known in Argentina. And she would hire me to come to her house. I don't know where it was not on one of my days off. It was in the middle, like in the afternoon or something. I would go to her house and give her lessons. And so, that was nice too. I taught her finger symbols because finger symbols weren't that popular. Fairuz played them, but nobody else did. So I taught Mirta finger symbols. And whatever happened to all these people, I can tell you, Mirta, she ended up with a TV show in Argentina, but then she ended up moving to Egypt, where she lives now. And I believe she's retired. She's, you know, yeah, she's a bit older than me. And she lives in Cairo. So that's nice. And then Fairuz ended up buying Shark Restaurant, and now it's called Fairuz Restaurant. Her daughter is a dancer. She opened a school in the restaurant much later. Um, and let's see, Mario Kirlis became world famous, world renowned. He started the whole Argentinian style of belly dance music. All the younger musicians that came after him, it's all his influence. And he taught his son, and he worked so hard. He was traveling all over the world playing and so giving actually. But in 2023 he passed away from a heart attack. So it was really sad. Um, who else? Arturo, he passed away in 2005. Um, he had a few health problems. He, and it was really sad that he passed away because but before he passed away, he went to Armenia a couple times and became a big star there, a bigger star in Armenia than in Argentina, where, he was raised and lived most of his life. So that's that story of Argentina. And I'll do part two, which involves my next trip out and coming back in, and what did I find, and where did I work, and so forth.
Oh, this is exciting because you're bringing stories that, as belly dancers, we don't know. Like I've never heard of their life. We listen to their music, but we haven't went in depth. And it's so wonderful that you're able to share their stories. So I can't wait for our part two. I'll see you then.
Thank you.